So earlier this year, I went to the Expo Hi-Fi show in Chicago, and it was there I got to experience the Fosi i5 headphones for the first time. And honestly, I don't get as excited about headphones anymore as compared to before, but honestly, this one made me really excited, just even down to the comfort level. It felt like a headphone that I wanted to own for myself. And of course, I listened to it at the show, and even though it was a very busy show, honestly, it sounded pretty darn good. So I decided to finally have it in my hands and try it out, and I've been testing it for the past few months after the Expona show, and I have to say, this one is quite good. And after having spent some quality time with this headphone, honestly speaking, I think this is the best $550 headphone that I have ever come across so far. And on top of that, I used the Luxon settings to make it sound even better for myself, to where it was almost comparable to like a high-end speaker setup. And we'll talk about the exact settings, and I'll let you know the exact settings in this video, how I did that. Because honestly, this headphone has a lot of potential. It sounds really good out of the box, but with a few setting adjustments with the Luxon, really takes it to the next level. But first, looking at the Fosi i5, it's a planar magnetic headphone with a 97mm planar driver with a 2 micrometer thickness. It also has this silver alloy coating through a very special kind of way to coat things, the magnetron splatter coating technique, for enhanced clarity and durability. The headband construction is much like hifi, but a little bit more refined. The lambskin headband is a really nice touch and it feels nice on the head. And this is why I particularly say this headphone is very, very comfortable, is the swivel action on this headphone allows you to really make fine adjustments. Because if you see here, like the amount of swivel, it has the perfect amount of tension to where it will stay exactly where you have swiveled the headband. So what this allows you to do is, it may be a little thing, but this is something I haven't seen on any headphone really. If you put it on your head, and then like you can swivel it and it will stay there, and this allows you to like swivel to cradle your head better. And I think this is just, maybe they did this by accident, but this is just a very, very comfortable way because our heads are all shaped differently, and this mechanism allows you to swivel it to cradle your head, depending on how fat or how slim your head is. And I have a pain point here on the back here on my neck, so most headphones I can't wear for too long periods of time because the uneven amount of pressure on the back, like when it sits on the back like this on the pain point, it will start hurting my neck. So I found that the swivel action, even though it's a little thing, especially for those with back problems and neck problems and shoulder problems like myself, definitely makes a huge improvement to the comfort and the ergonomics. And I do like this headband adjustment as well. It's using a silicone sliding mechanism that doesn't scratch and strip away the paint, as we have seen on some hifi headphones in the past. And I really do love these pads. They're very thick and plush leather pads, and I found them to be very breathable, and they don't get really hot, and I found them to be really cushiony. And of course, aesthetically speaking, the walnut wood on the headphone is a nice aesthetic touch. So overall, this headphone feels more premium and sounds really premium for the price. Just a few years ago, I wouldn't have imagined a headphone like this for $550. It would have been absolutely insane. It's pretty much like the sound quality, the aesthetics, the ergonomics, right, the comfort level. All of it is really excellent. I don't really have much to nitpick about this headphone. I think the aesthetic choices and the overall sound quality and of course the comfort level really seals the deal for me with this headphone. I personally used to rock the Sennheiser HD600 as my main headphones, and the reason I went to that headphone despite me having tried lots of different expensive headphones in the past and have owned it personally is because that headphone is the most comfortable. Like I have that neck pain that I told you about, and there's very little headphones out there that can make me feel comfortable wearing it for long periods of time, especially on my desktop when I'm working. And this headphone is more comfortable than that for me, and it just fits my head perfectly, cradles it perfectly, and by far it sounds better than the Sennheiser HD600. It sounds more open, spacious, and I'm a personal fan of planar magnetic headphones. I have always been. hifi Edition X version 2, that was my main headphones for a very long time, but I had to eventually get rid of it because of that pain on the neck. Well, this doesn't have that, and that is a game changer for me. So what does this headphone sound like? So for me, it sounds very spacious and open, a hallmark of a planar magnetic open back headphone. And so sometimes I forget that I have the headphone on and I feel like I have the speakers on in front of me. So that's a good sign that it has a very out of the head kind of experience. And we'll come back to the soundstage in a minute because it's not perfect, but we can get there with the Luxon. But another thing that this headphone is good at as a planar magnetic headphone is that nuance and detail. And because planar magnetic headphones are usually good with those things, for example, the Edition X version 2, very good with that, LCD2, same thing. And those were one of my favorite headphones of all time within, sensible budget. Well, this headphone has all of those things as well. It sounds very good, has very good attack and decay structure, very good detail retrieval and nuance, and you can hear the space and all the information very readily. It's very satisfying. I also appreciate that it's not bright or fatiguing to listen to, even though it's very detailed, so I didn't have any problems with wearing it or hearing the sound out of the headphone for a very long period of time. It was very enjoyable, has just the right amount of edge and smoothness so that you can hear those edges in the instruments, but without getting brittle or unrefined. But I tend to be very picky with my headphones, so I do have two criticisms that I don't like about this headphone sound signature. And one of it is really not the fault of this headphone, but I still don't like headphones that have a more of an in-your-head kind of soundstage, which is the majority of headphones, by the way. But I just don't like that. I'm so used to now hearing a soundstage in front of me, the depth and the width of the soundstage, whether I'm on my desk or on inside my entertainment room. I want to hear the soundstage in front of me rather than, in my head in front of me here. Now this headphone, like I said, does sound more spacious and is more spacious, more out of your head. But I do feel like it's still hovering here. Like I don't hear the soundstage projected in front of me wide and deep. But that can be also changed with the Luxon, and we'll talk about that in a minute here. And the second thing that I didn't like about this headphone is that even though it's not brittle or bright sounding, I did find that the sound overall was a little bit too lean for my liking, meaning I wanted a little bit more bass and a little bit more warmth added to the sound. And again, that can be done in the Luxon. So Luxon has recently added the i5 into their EQ platform, which is awesome. This allows you to choose from the many popular EQ target curves in the market. And of course, I've tried all of them, but honestly speaking, other than the flat profile, I found the rest to be basically useless, unusable, because it sounds really, really bad with these other types of EQs. Only the flat profile seemed to work with the Fosi i5, making it sound more balanced. But even then, I would have to say that I did prefer the original sound signature of the i5 on a lot of the tracks. The flat profile was good when I was like mixing and mastering some tracks in small projects, or if I were to be, making adjustments to audio for my YouTube videos and stuff like that, where I needed that flat neutrality. I did find that the flat profile was more neutral, but I didn't find it to be musically more engaging than the i5's original sound signature. What really took the cake for me were these settings. So first of all, you're going to change the profile to flat profile in the Luxon, and we are going to increase the 105 Hz low shelf to 11 dB. And of course, you can mess around with the value and if you feel like that's too much, but personally, there's a reason we're going a little bit extreme here in terms of the bass shelf being boosted up that high. And that's because we're going to be adjusting the soundstage, and with the increase in soundstage, I find that the bass can be a little bit lackluster and less full sounding. And that's always the case with these kind of like, settings that like stretch the soundstage. They tend to like lean out the sound, and you know what I'm talking about if you experienced this before. It makes it sound more thinner, and because this headphone is already thin sounding, we don't want that. So by increasing the bass amount to this much, I found the bass to be very, very rupturous and very, very good. And at no point did I find that the headphone was struggling or the amplifier was struggling to produce these notes. In fact, not just for music, but when I was watching movies, I really love this setting because it gave me that really kind of visceral and immersive kind of sound, especially with those explosions and bass effects. I thought it was wonderful. So we're increasing the bass to compensate for that, but after that we're gonna go to the effects page of the Luxon, increase the stereo width to about 65 and the crossfeed to 650 Hz 9.5 dB. Now, of course, you can increase the stereo width to 100 and go even more overboard, but I personally found that to be not very favorable when you listen for long periods of time. You kind of get those kind of artifacts, not artifacts, but like you kind of hear the missingness, if you will. It's hard to explain. It's too lean sounding. I found the 65 to be around the right point for it to be sounding full, but still that gives you that illusion of having a soundstage in front of you and not hovering around your head. So I found this to be really exceptional. Like, it feels like I have really high-end monitors in front of me, and it's even amazing that you get this kind of detail because it's a headphone and the drivers are right next to you. So you hear all this detail readily while experiencing this kind of stereo imaging from a headphone, which honestly speaking, I didn't think that's gonna work out this good, but it worked out really well. And it felt like I was listening to my desktop speakers. Like, the illusion was super real. And of course, you can apply these Luxon settings to virtually any headphone out there and get similar results. But I found that with the i5, I've tried a lot of different headphones with the Luxon, and the settings work really well with minimal adjustments with the i5 because it already has a spacious sound. And because this is a very nuanced and detailed planar magnetic headphone drivers in here, and sometimes when I increase the soundstage width on the Luxon on other headphones, I seem to lose like the attack and decay structure sometimes. But with this headphone, because of the nuance and detailed nature of the planar magnetic, that actually kind of played into the favor of the Luxon settings, to where, yes, you're losing a little bit of that edge, but I preferred it musically speaking. You could hear the instruments a little bit more naturally. And I did find that the stereo width and the overall kind of trade-off between soundstage and detail was just the right amount of balance, where other headphones, I felt like I was trading straight up like detail retrieval for that soundstage, if that makes sense. So you're always losing something versus something else when you make these adjustments. But with the i5, yes, technically speaking, we lost a little bit of that detailed edge, but I didn't find that to be a negative. In fact, I thought that aided in the overall musicality I was hearing out of this headphone. So that's to say the Luxon settings are gonna work better with certain headphones, and I found that the i5 worked wonderfully, and it goes on my highest recommendations to pair with the i5. And of course, I had other headphone amplifiers I have tried, like my Burson and so on, but I just found that even synergistically, the overall sound signature worked out really well with the Luxon, to where I really didn't feel like going to another headphone amplifier after going to the Luxon, especially after messing around with the settings, just the way I like it. It was just absolutely perfect, and I could not believe that this was a $550 headphone with a sound quality like this. And I know we are talking about the Luxon into the equation, but even then, I thought this was an exceptional setup that I would be happy with. And if I was wanting a little bit of adjustment, I can simply go into EQ settings and make those adjustments. For example, if I wanted to reduce the vocal sibilance a little bit, I can do that in the EQ and keep the rest of the settings exactly the same. And this will allow me to fine tune to my liking over time. So I found this to be extremely good value of a headphone for $550. And this is gonna be my main headphone from now on that I'm gonna be rocking. Quite seriously, I'm gonna buy one because just the comfort level alone sold it to me. The sound quality being great is awesome, the aesthetics is awesome, the build quality is awesome, which is all great things to have. But let's face it, even if it sounds amazing and has the best build quality ever, if it doesn't feel right on your head and you can't wear it for long periods of time, it kind of defeats the purpose for me, because I wanna wear my headphones for long periods of time. And this, for me, is a good replacement and upgrade to the Sennheiser HD600 that I've been rocking because of the comfort level. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know in the comment section what your experience is. And of course, I have some special deals for you on this headphone that I've partnered up with the online dealer. So check those deals out. I think the first 200 pairs or something like that is gonna be on a special discount. So yeah, check it out, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Until next time.